terror in Orlando.
Just bang, bang, screaming and loud noise, and the other guy next to me was shot.
More than 100 people shot, at least 50 dead.
I thought I was gonna die. Like, I didn't know if I was gonna come out alive.
A night that started as a fun time ended as the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history. Special coverage of WAVY News 10 starts now. I'm Brandy Cummings. Thanks so much for joining us on this sad night. The nation is in mourning tonight as our country comes to grips with yet another deadly mass shooting. Fox News correspondent Steve Harrigan has the latest details.
A lone gunman armed with an assault rifle and handgun pledged allegiance to ISIS before going on a shooting rampage in Florida. President Obama condemned the attack that claimed the lives of at least 50 people and injured dozens of others.
Today marks the most deadly shooting in American history. This was an act of terror and an act of hate.
Police say 29-year-old Omar Mateen entered the Pulse, a gay nightclub in Orlando, early Sunday morning and began shooting. He then took hostages before being shot dead by SWAT members. The FBI says Mateen was twice investigated by the Bureau, once in 2013 and again in 2014.
The FBI first became aware of Mateen in 2013 when he made inflammatory comments to coworkers alleging possible terrorist ties.
Officials say Mateen lived in an apartment in Fort Pierce, more than 100 miles from Orlando. He reportedly purchased 2 weapons, a handgun and a rifle, just in the last few days. The FBI says Mateen was not under investigation at the time of the shooting.
The FBI thoroughly investigated the matter, including interviews of witnesses, physical surveillance, and records checks. In the course of the investigation, Mateen was interviewed twice. Ultimately, we were unable to verify the substance of his comments, and the investigation was closed.
The brutal attack has left the community and nation shaken. A candlelight vigil is being held for the victims at a church not far from the shooting site.
It's heartbreaking, and this is something the community is going to deal with for a very, very long time.
The city of Orlando has set up a victim site on the city's webpage. Names are added after next of kin are notified. In Orlando, Steve Harrigan, Fox News.
Here at home, people spent the night remembering the victims of the deadly shootings in Orlando. Within the last 30 minutes, the largest LGBT organization in Hampton Roads wrapped up a vigil in Norfolk. 10 on your side's Matt Gregory was there, and Matt, I can only imagine it was a somber occasion.
Yeah, Brandy, very somber. In fact, the vigil just ended a little bit ago. People are still packing up here and closing down. Stick around and talking, because when members of the LGBTQ community in Hampton Roads woke up today, the shock from what happened in Orlando just resonated up here, and they knew they had to do something about it. So immediately the members of Hampton Roads Pride went to work. They brought candles, banners, and flags. And as they finished setting up, people began to flow in. Somber faces, but warm embraces as people from the LGBTQ community and beyond stood together. Each speaker delivered a message of love and love for one another and for those who died.
We will not forget your ultimate sacrifice. You didn't know what would transpire last night. No one did, but now you will live in our hearts forever.
Now this week will be Hampton Roads Pride Fest week, and with what happened in Orlando, we asked the president of Hampton Roads Pride, will you be beefing up security? Is there any more measures you feel you have to take? And he said, we have very high security measures already, but in the wake of what's happened, we certainly will look into any other measures we could look into with the city of Norfolk, as well as Norfolk's LGBTQ liaison. In Norfolk, I'm Matt Gregory, 10 on your side.
I want to wake up. This is something that is, I'm running on adrenaline and can't wrap my head around right now. It is not something that I expected to wake up on a Sunday morning to come find out that there's 50 of our community members laying on the floor inside a club dead, and another 40, 50 in the hospital. It doesn't seem real.
That was Terry DiCarlo, the executive director of the GLBT Center of Central Florida. He says the news has been very difficult to hear.
We need to rally around the family and the friends of those people that were killed today, and the people that are in the hospital right now. I can't imagine how they're feeling, that they spent 3 hours in a hostage situation in a club. It's traumatic.
Michael Smith, co-founder and chief operating officer for a terrorism research and analysis firm, says the Orlando shooting was likely orchestrated from outside of the U.S. The targets of the shooting and the large number of casualties, Smith says, represents the agenda of a worldwide terrorism organization.
Very recently, we have seen the Islamic State-affiliated Amaq news agency state that this attack was executed by an Islamic State fighter, and that's very important language because that suggests that there was some level of coordination with individuals overseas.
Leaders from across the U.S. are responding to this deadly mass shooting. Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe tweeted, "I'm heartbroken by the news of sons and daughters lost last night in Orlando, praying for victims, families, and an end to senseless gun violence." North Carolina Governor Pat McCrory says the shooting that occurred in Orlando was a tragedy and something that should never take place in our country. Those who died were innocent victims of an inexcusable act of violence. Congressman Bobby Scott says last night's shooting was particularly insidious in that it occurred at a prominent gay nightclub when Americans across the country were gathering to celebrate LGBT Pride Month and the remarkable diversity of our nation. Meaningful action is long overdue. Congressman Scott Ridgell says in part, "Terry and I join our nation in deploring the attack, mourning the profound loss." Presidential candidate Hillary Clinton says, "Woke up to hear the devastating news from Florida. As we wait for more information, my thoughts are with those affected by this horrific act." Right after the shooting, presidential candidate Donald Trump first said via Twitter, "Really bad shooting in Orlando. Police investigating possible terrorism, many people dead and wounded." Bernie Sanders says all Americans are horrified, disgusted, and saddened by the horrific atrocity in Orlando. With the number of victims, the need for blood in Orlando is great. Officials have asked and people continue to respond. Here's a look at the scene earlier today. Hundreds there lining up to donate. Local Red Cross volunteers are giving food and water to emergency responders. They will provide any support they can to those in need in Orlando. If you want to donate blood, you can make an appointment with the Red Cross online or by calling 1-800-RED-CROSS. You should note WAVY is committed to having you covered on this major national story as it develops. 10 on your side's Tom Shad will provide live reports from Orlando beginning tomorrow.